A foreign manager once told me the meeting went perfectly. The client said yes. They liked the proposal. They agreed with everything. 3 months later, there was no deal. If you've worked in China long enough, you've probably experienced some version of this. Someone says yes, but nothing happens. And the question becomes, what went wrong? Most people explain this using culture. They say Chinese people are indirect, Chinese communication is complicated, China is relationship driven, but I don't think that's the real problem, because the same misunderstanding happens to really experienced professionals too. The issue isn't communication, the issue here is interpretation. For 14 years, I've worked with foreigners learning Chinese or dealing with Chinese people. One pattern appeared again and again. The biggest problems were not caused by vocabulary, they were caused by interpretation. People understood the words, but people misunderstood the system behind the words. And I started seeing the exact same thing happen in business environments. Here is the simple idea. Many people assume agreement equals commitment, but those are completely different signals. Agreement answers, are we generally aligned? Commitment answers, will action actually happen? The mistake here is treating them as the same thing. Imagine a meeting, you present an idea, everybody nods, nobody objects. The discussion feels really positive. Most foreigners leave thinking, great, decision made. But inside the organization, the actual decision process may not even have started. Other stakeholders haven't weighed in, internal alignment hasn't happened, budget hasn't been approved, risk hasn't been evaluated. What looks like commitment was only agreement. I remember speaking with someone who was frustrated after months of stalled discussions, and he kept asking, why won't they just tell me no? Because from his perspective, no action means rejection. But from the other side, the evaluation process was still unfolding. Two completely different interpretations from the same situation. Of course, it doesn't mean every yes is meaningless, and it doesn't mean China is mysterious. The point is not never trust agreement. The point is understanding what signal you are actually seeing. Agreement is a signal, commitment is another signal. Execution is another entirely different signal. When people confuse those signals, they lose more than deals. They lose time, momentum, resources, forecast accuracy, and more importantly, trust in their own judgment. And they often repeat the same mistake over and over. As China becomes more important globally, the advantage won't belong to those people who know the most facts about China. It will belong to those people who interpret China more accurately. Because information is available to everyone, interpretation is not. The professionals who consistently succeed in China are not necessarily smarter, they simply learn to see different signals. They stopped asking, what was said? And start asking, what does this signal actually mean? And that's the uncomfortable question. When someone says yes, how do you know whether you're seeing agreement, alignment, commitment, or execution? Most people don't actually know, they assume. And assumption brings risks. If you are experiencing the same thing when working with Chinese clients, teams, or partners, comment max below to get a China signal snapshot. It's a short diagnosis that helps you identify the China signals you might be misreading before they become expensive mistakes.